Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 808 Breakdown. My name is Dribble the Swordsman, and I will be your host. Today, we are going to be getting into a song entitled The Heart Part 5 by Kendrick Lamar. We're going to be breaking it down verse by verse, line by line, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So first of all, I want to kind of give a little bit of an introduction to this artist if you are not familiar with them. Nothing wrong with that. People introduce me and tell me about different artists and different songs, relatively often. And sometimes, maybe I've heard a song of theirs before, but I didn't know that's who the artist was. For example, with Baby Keem, Orange Soda. I had heard Orange Soda before, but I didn't know that was Baby Keem until relatively recently when, I had listened to his album, The Melodic Blue, and, I kind of went to his other discography a little bit. And I'm like, oh, that was him? I didn't even know that. So, things like that can happen. So some songs you may have heard by Kendrick Lamar are Drink, Swimming Pools, it's like pour up, drink, headshot, drink, pass out, drink, faded, drink, faded, drink. Like, you may have heard that song before. You may have heard Mad City, that Pyrus and Crips all got along. They probably ran me down by the end of this song. It's like, man down, where you from? Who you know, where you from? All that thing, it's like a kind of thing, and first of all, let me just say this. I just sang those so you guys can kind of understand the rhythm a little bit. If you haven't heard that song before, I'm not going to be singing these lyrics. I'm going to just be reading them when I'm breaking this song down. But you stick around to the end of the video, I'm going to get into some bad karaoke. So you guys may want to stick around for that. That's going to be fun. But basically, like I said, you may have heard this other song too. I remember syrup sandwiches and crime allowances, Vanessa Nono with some counterfeits, and now I'm counting this. That be humble, sit down, be humble, sit down. That's another song by him. That's off of his last album. This song right here is a prelude to his latest album, his newest album that's going to be coming out 5/13/2022, entitled Mr. Moral or Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. I really hope we get some confirmation on that name because I've heard it two different ways and I'm not really sure how to say it either. English can be very tricky sometimes. Is the E silent? Maybe it's Mr. Morale. I don't know. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. That's another possibility. I don't know. But hopefully we hear the name on the actual album. Or maybe Kendrick will make a statement or he'll do some interview and then we'll actually hear the official pronunciation of how he entitled it to be, and then we can go along with that. But yeah, that's kind of a little synopsis with Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar is also from Compton, California. So he has a lot of West Coast vibe, West Coast United States influence. So that's kind of what Kendrick Lamar is, but he's a very different kind of hip hop artist. Some will say he's the greatest rapper alive right now. And some put them in their top 3, their top 5 and stuff like that. So he's very, very renowned, highly respected in the hip hop and music community. And as I stated, this is his comeback. He's been gone for about 5 years since his last album. Just a quick discography of Kendrick Lamar really quickly. I'm actually going to do a video probably only on Kendrick Lamar, but I don't really want to do that super in-depth kind of analysis with him right now. This is really just supposed to be about The Heart Part 5, but maybe I could get into it. Let me know what you guys want. Like, since this is the first episode, I want to get a little feedback from you guys. Let me know if you guys want longer multiple subject videos or you just want me to stay kind of on one topic, because for example, I am going to be pulling from some different songs here, from even some different artists to help us break down this song. But I mean, in terms of, would you want me to do something like a combination review where I really tell you about the artist and then tell you about the song? Let me know what you guys would like, and maybe I can try and make that happen. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the breakdown. We're going to start at the beginning, as we should. All of this is Kendrick Lamar. And I'm not really going to go into the video that much. I'm really just going to go into the lyrics right now. The video is a little bit tricky to break down. Some of the things are very standout. For example, there's a line about bipolar, and then there's the Kanye West face transform, and Kanye West has kind of commented on some mental health things. So that is why there's a connection there. So, but I don't really want to get into that much. I just want to kind of get into just the lyrics. So maybe I can do a separate video for that later. And I want this to come out before the album comes out. And that's going to take a little bit more time. And I need to get this out. So I'm sorry to shortchange you guys on that, but hopefully you guys enjoy this. All right. So Kendrick Lamar starts out by saying in the intro here in this first verse, as I get a little older, I realize life is perspective, and my perspective may differ from yours. I want to say thank you to everyone that's been down with me, all my fans, all my beautiful fans, anyone who's ever gave me a listen, all my people. So we start off here with Kendrick Lamar. He's being a little introspective here. He's saying, he's getting a little older. He's starting to kind of understand things a little bit more. He's saying life is kind of a perspective. Like, it's kind of like, as far as, of course, everybody's going to have their own view of things. And he's kind of looking at that and being like, hey, my view is different from yours. And he also want to say thank you to everybody that's been rocking with him, that's been sticking with him. Because, sometimes when an artist doesn't put out music or put out an album or a mixtape or whatever for a long time, people start to lose interest and they start to kind of fall away. But sometimes you have those fans that stick around through that hiatus, if you will. And he's just giving them a thank you. He even compliments the fans, calls them beautiful, and even anyone that gave him a listen. So that's one thing too. With an artist, sometimes a listen is so appreciated because there's so many times when, an artist is maybe up and coming or an artist that you may not have even heard of. Now, even though Kendrick Lamar is a huge name in hip hop, the hip hop community is like pretty much everybody that listens to hip hop regularly knows who Kendrick Lamar is, whether they like him or not. But there are some people that have never heard of this man. They've never heard of his music, never heard a song, because they never have, listened to hip hop like that, or they don't like hip hop for whatever reason. You see different videos. For example, there's videos on YouTube that kind of address this. There's Turning the Tables, Bridging the Gap. There's another one too, but basically those are these shows where the sons usually are talking to the fathers being a little bit older. They're maybe a little bit set in their ways musically, so they're not wanting to venture out that much into other genres. So they've never heard any kind of music from Kendrick Lamar or any hip hop artist for that matter, or they think hip hop is a certain way, so they just like kind of don't feel interested in it, don't understand that hip-hop can be very, very different as far as the subject matter. It's not all about the negative stuff. Sometimes it can be very positive. Sometimes it's kind of like poetry and just like saying what they observe and what's going on in certain communities, but not necessarily advocating for that or saying that they're doing that, so it's, or glorifying that for that matter. So it's a little bit different. So I just say all that to say, sometimes you look at an artist, you're like, yeah, I'm not going to listen to them. So just giving that person a listen, it really is a lot, because so many artists that are trying to come out right now that are not like Kendrick Lamar, that are like a SoundCloud artist or something like that, or some other person that's putting their music on Twitter or Instagram or whatever. And it's like, you see the comments sometimes, hey, check out my mixtape, check out this, check out that. And people just glance over them. They don't ever look. And so that's what can happen. And so he's just thanking people like, hey, thank you for giving me a listen. Even if you didn't like me, thank you. You could be saying that. And so we get into the next verse here. I come from a generation of pain where murder is minor. Rebellious and margialas will chip you for designer. Belt buckles and clout, overzealous if prone to violence. Make the wrong turn, be it will or the will alignment. Residue burned, mist of the inner city. Miscommunication to keep homie detective busy. No protection is risky. Desensitized, I vandalize pain, covered up and camouflaged. So let's stop there. This is kind of a longer verse. Let's go ahead and break those down. So Kendrick Lamar here, he's talking about coming from a generation of pain, a generation which is, a generation is something that is kind of classified by when you're born, what era you're kind of coming up in. Like, for example, I'm 30 years old. I was born in the early 90s. So you could kind of say I'm a 90s baby. Sometimes I kind of like to think of myself as a 2000s baby just because I really experienced the 2000s. Now, I did experience the 90s a lot too, but you got to understand, half of that, I'm like a little baby, and then I become a toddler and then like a freaking 5-year-old. Now I become 10. So I'm about 10 years old at the beginning of the 2000s. Now, from the 2000s to the 2010s, I'm like 10 to the age of, about 20. So I really experienced the 2000s. I remember a lot of stuff from the 2000s. You know what I'm saying? I remember stuff from the 90s too, but I remember a lot of stuff from the 2000s. So this kind of keep that in mind. So that's kind of like a generation. Kendrick Lamar is a little bit older than me, He kind of talks about this on an album called Section 80. He talks about 80s babies, kind of the mentality that's been kind of pushed on them by society and things like that. And that kind of maybe plays a part of what he's talking about here too. This song is pretty deep, y'all. So just try and follow me here. So the generation of pain. So pain and all these different things he's talking about, right? He said, well, murder is minor. So the pain and the damage. So this generation is damaged so badly that murder, something as serious and horrible as that, is minor. It's a minor thing. It's something that's not even like, it's like murder, that ain't nothing. Like, that's kind of what's like, it's kind of portrayed here by this particular generation he's talking about. Now, it could be a double entendre here. A minor is also something that you can get when you're in college. Like, for example, you could be studying, let's say you're a business major or something, right? Okay, you study business in college. That's your main degree. Let's say you have a bachelor's in business, but you have a minor in like biology or something like that. So you did different classes on biology, but that wasn't your main major. Your main major was business, but you do have some knowledge of biology, and you did, a few more biology-based classes and curriculum that you maybe weren't supposed to do, doing a business major, but so you got the minor. So he's kind of saying maybe also that this particular generation, murder is the minor for them. So it's like, yeah, they do all this other stuff, but that's not their minor. Like they also know how to do that, and they do that. And so then you get into this other one, rebellious, and Magial's a chip you for designer. Okay, so again, this generation, they're rebellious, and they'll chip you for designer, meaning they'll kill you for designer. There's a song by J. Cole called Nobody's Perfect. There's a line in that song that's pretty creative too, right? Where he talks about something like this, okay? It's featuring Missy Elliott too, by the way. So in this song, he says, death over designer. So he says, they killing dudes for J's, that's death over designer, okay? So this is what Kendrick is kind of talking about. These people will see different things that you have, and they'll try and kill you and take that junk from you. Belt buckles and clout, overzealous and prone to violence. All right, clout chasing. All right, belt buckles. This is a thing that is perpetuated too. By this thing that Kendrick Lamar describing. We're going to get into what that thing is too, very much in depth in this episode. So keep listening. So we're going to keep going here. Make the wrong turn, be it wheel or the wheel alignment. So here, wheel alignment, this double entendre is also kind of maybe like a triple entendre in a way. So he's talking about maybe the wrong turn, okay? Like you're turning, bicycle, car, whatever, right? You're turning so you can, go a different direction, all right? The wheel alignment. So wheel alignment, when you get your car aligned, sometimes if your wheels are not aligned in your car, if you take your hands off the wheel, your car may like just start going to the right by itself, or it might start going to the left by itself. It won't just stay kind of going straight. Now, of course, after a while of taking your hand off the wheel, it's going to go one way or the other because you have bumps in the road, and that's going to make your suspension move and, get the tires turning a little bit. But for the most part, it's going to be going straight. When you have that bad alignment, man, you take your hands off the wheel, your car can really go to the right, to the left very, very easily. Matter of fact, I had an older car that was like that. Once I got that alignment fixed, then it started, doing what it was supposed to do. That's going in a straight line like it was supposed to when I took my hands off the wheel, if I was going to check it. So he's talking about that wrong turn, right? You make a wrong turn, meaning kind of like, hey, you're going to the wrong area. You might encounter some of these things he's talking about in the previous lines, you know what I'm saying? Which is kind of like, you take that wrong turn, you end up in a bad neighborhood, boom, all this stuff can happen to you. Be it will. Now, he could be saying maybe the will of God. It could be whatever your will is, So the will is something kind of like what is wanted almost. It's like whether you want it, maybe you want to go over there, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you want to go there and, hey, look at my belt, look at all this clout I got, and that's what you want to do. That might be what your will is, and, you may suffer the consequences of that, which is outlined in the lines above this. Residue burned, mist of the inner city. Miscommunication to keep homie detective busy. No protection is risky. Let's break that down. No protection is risky. So it's like if you're going into these different situations, with no protection, probably meaning a gun. And it's interesting because now this really points to it being a gun of some sort or firearm or whatever, because if you look at this cover or this image, I'll say this picture that was released by Kendrick Lamar for Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, the album that's going to be coming out 5/13/2022, you can see him with this pistol, okay, tucked in his waist on his backside. So he's kind of saying not having that can be very risky if you're going to either be living this kind of lifestyle that he's talking about, or if you're going to be in that particular area. And then he goes on to say, desensitized, I vandalized pain, covered up and camouflaged. Now this is pretty deep. Desensitized, I vandalize pain. What does that mean? So when you vandalize something, right? Let's think of graffiti. That's usually vandalization. When you vandalize something, you damage it, you deface it, you change the appearance of it, right? So basically, he's been desensitized. He's got a lot of pain, but he's vandalized it. What did he do? He covered it up and camouflaged it. Just like a person would with a spray paint can vandalize the building, right? There may be a pretty nice white wall, a nice green wall, a nice blue wall, whatever, right? The person gets on there and vandalizes it. Now it's like half red, it's half yellow. Maybe the whole thing is yellow. It's got all kind of words and stuff on it. So it's a mask. He covered up this pain. He covered it up. And then he camouflaged it. So it's like, you can't even see this pain and stuff or the things I've been desensitized to because I'm like covering that junk up. You can't see it. That is deep. That is so deep, but that's so damaging, because when you do that, you're not really healing. You're not really healing. You're just covering up. You're masking it. And usually that leads to even more pain or more discomfort. When you really address it and get that fixed, then you can really start to heal. But that's not really what is perpetuated by this thing that Kendrick Lamar is talking about here. Now, we're going to get to what the thing is. Trust, we're going to get there. Stay with me. We're going to get to what that thing is. We get a little sneak peek at the end of this verse. I'm trying to get to it. All right, here we go. Get used to hearing Arsenal reign. Analyze, risk your life, take the charge. Homie's done your baby mama once you hit the yard. That's culture. There it is. That is the thing that Kendrick Lamar is talking about. Culture. Quote unquote culture. All right. Now, this is where it gets very, very interesting. Kendrick Lamar is talking about all these different things, right? You listen to the negative things we heard about here. Pain, murder, violence, miscommunication. All these different things, right? All these different things, these negative things, right? Let's just get into the lines before that, right? Homie done mess with your baby mama, clean up the language here, once you hit the yard. So you have now gone to prison or to jail, and now your homies, your friends, these are your friends, homies, friends, right? Your friends have gone and messed with your baby mama once you went into jail, once you went into prison. These people are supposed to be your friends, and they go and do that to your baby mama, bro. Like, that is foul. That's like some two-faced stuff, right? That's like a betrayal, right? But that's the culture. That's the quote-unquote culture, right? And the reason why I think it's a quote-unquote culture is because when you look at what the definition of culture is. So the definition of culture via Google is 1, the art and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. 2, the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or social group. Merriam-Webster says 1A, the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. Also, the characteristic features of everyday existence, such as diversions or a way of life, shared by people in a place or time. B, the set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that characterizes an institution or organization. C, the set of values, conventions, or social practices associated with a particular field, activity, or social characteristic. D, the integrated pattern of human knowledge, belief, and behavior that depends upon the capacity for learning and transmitting knowledge to succeeding generations. 2A, enlightenment and excellence of taste acquired by intellectual and aesthetic training. B, acquaintance with and taste in fine arts, humanities, and broad aspects of science as distinguished from vocational and technical skills. 3, the act or process of cultivating living material, such as bacteria, or viruses in prepared nutrient media. Also, a product of such cultivation. 5. The act of developing the intellectual or moral faculties, especially by education. 6. Expert care and training. All right, so that is what culture is defined as, okay? And it does line up with what Kendrick Lamar is describing. And ultimately what he is describing here is the black community in at least the United States. So the black community, the things that he's talking about in these lines before he says that's culture, is what the culture is for a lot of black people in the United States. So, and it actually really not even necessarily black people, it's really all people that have this kind of thinking, this kind of stuff going on, right? But it's probably more prevalent in these black communities and whatnot. You hear about black on black crime all the time and stuff like that, right? Thinking about where he's from, Compton, California, there's a lot of black on black crime, okay? So in that community and there's other crime as well, you know what I'm saying? Other type of ethnicities and stuff like that fight each other and hurt each other as well. But that's pretty much probably what he's talking about. And the reason why I'm saying that is because that's what he experienced. Look at Good Kid, Mad City. He talks about it. Like that's what he experienced growing up. And that's the same kind of stuff that's still going on in that area, because he talks about he's lost different people, I think, even since that album came out. So it's something that's what he's experienced. So that's probably what he's referring to here. But the reason that I say culture, quote unquote, is because usually when you think of culture, right, usually it's painted as something good. It's painted as something positive. Like, think about like different cultures, right? You think about like food, like, oh man, I'm gonna go get me some of this food, man. I know they know how to get down, man. They know how to make this, they know how to make that, man. That's some good food right there. Think about like the dresses, you know what I'm saying? The dress, the fashion, right? Dashiki, kimono, like, you know what I'm saying? Culture, like that's what you kind of think about, right? And most of those things are very positive, but for some reason, this culture has become negative. And also, it could be an allusion to viruses and bacteria and stuff like that, how those things can spread, right, rapidly. So this toxic culture, this negative culture can spread and grow just like those bacterial cultures. Excuse my language there. I meant to say bacterial cultures. I don't think they can do viral cultures. But regardless, hopefully you guys see what I'm trying to say and what Kendrick might be trying to say as well. So let's keep on going here. 23-hour lockdown. Then somebody called, said your little nephew was shot down. The culture's involved. So again, 23-hour lockdown. This is just kind of like maybe if you were lost before what he's talking about, right? Once you hit the yard is kind of slang. It's a part of the prison layout or the jail layout. You go in the yard, like that's like where people kind of go out. They may have a basketball court out there. They may have other things out there or whatever, right? They go out there. That's like where your recreation time is, and you go back inside and get back on the lockdown. But again, he talks about 23-hour lockdown, right? So 23-hour lockdown, that's like a very high security prison, right? Where you're locked down in that cell for 23 hours and you only get out for like an hour to do certain things and whatnot, right? Then you get a call. You're in that situation, right? Because of whatever may have happened or whatever you may have done. And then you get a call, your little nephew was shot down. That means he was killed, murdered, which we talked about earlier in the song, right? He said, I come from a generation of pain where murder is minor. Okay, now this murder that has just happened because of the culture and the generation, okay, that's perpetuated these things. Now, that little nephew that was shot down, that's just a minor thing. Oh, that happens all the time. That's just part of it. That's just part of the culture. This is part of the culture. Let's look past it. Let's look past it. No, you should not look past it. That is a life that was taken. Like, no. That is important. That is not minor. That's major, super major. So no, it's not minor. But again, this is Kendrick. Kendrick is not glorifying this. He's shedding light on this so that you can understand, like, yo, these are the things that are being perpetuated as culture, and it's so negative and horrible. So here we go. The culture's involved. I done seen dudes do 17, hit the halfway house, get out and get his brains blown out, looking to buy some weed. Let's think about that. The dude did 17 years, got out of prison or jail or whatever, probably prison. I don't think you can do 17 years in jail. So he gets out, he hits the halfway house, meaning he went to a halfway house. So a halfway house is usually when you get out of, like, you know, being in jail or not usually, but sometimes you get out of jail or prison, they will have you go to what's called a halfway house, where you just stay in that house and they kind of monitor you and stuff. And then after a certain amount of time, maybe it can be months or years, they will allow you to go all the way back into society and live your life. Now, this man had done the time in prison, got out, went to the halfway house, and then he got out again of the halfway house, and then he gets killed trying to buy some weed. Now, the thing is, right, there's so much here to unpack. For one thing, that's just tragic, right? It's like, wow, after successfully making it out of prison, making it out of a halfway house, and then you die looking to buy some weed. It's like something so quick, right? Something that was just, you're going to spend like 20 minutes doing that, trying to probably buy some weed or whatever. Let's say you spend an hour compared to 17 years or even longer. Let's say 20 years, because maybe he was in the halfway house for like 3 years before they really let him out. For like 20 years compared to an hour, right? To get that pleasure of, getting high on some weed, and now you're dead. After you just made it through that whole situation. That is wild, man. And then, but the thing is, right? That's the culture, right? The culture is drugs, right? So let's talk about this a little bit more. Matter of fact, J. Cole actually did an album kind of centered around this concept, right? There's a song that he has on one of his albums called KOD, where he talks about meditating and not medicating. So again, what's going on here? In this one little verse, right? Kendrick Lamar talked about vandalizing pain, covering it up, camouflaging it, right? What do people usually do? Well, he actually talks about this later in the song. We're going to get to that. Food for thought. What do people usually do when they're in pain? Let's leave that out there. All right. So now, car wash is played out. New GoFundMe accounts will proceed. A brand new victim will shatter those dreams, the culture. So again, this is Kendrick Lamar showing us that, this person, they died. It was horrible, right? So the people are going to make these GoFundMe accounts. Hey, John Doe was gunned down. We need money for the funeral. So they'll go ahead and create those accounts, and they'll go ahead and get the money in hopes that maybe this will stop. Why is he trying to say that maybe this will stop? Because he says shatter those dreams. The dream is that they don't want that to happen anymore. They don't want another person to die. They don't want another murder to occur, right? But a new victim will shatter those dreams. Why? Because that's the culture. That is what is perpetuated in that community. The quote unquote culture. It's nothing positive. It's negative. And because of that culture, that is why it will just keep on happening. He's talking about a cycle of violence, a cycle of death, destruction. All right. There's even other things here you can kind of unpack because, 23-hour lockdown, that can be a double entendre too. They actually have situations in some of these areas where you are under lockdown. Apparently, maybe, there's a lot of violence going on in the neighborhood and the police may say, hey, don't come out of your house right now. You stay inside, and they're going to police or whatever. You can kind of see this on this show. It's called On My Block. There's a lot of gang activity in that area and they kind of depict that. That's in, I believe, a California neighborhood too, where there's a lot of violence and stuff like that. But it's a different ethnicity, that's kind of involved there. You've got a high focus on the Latino community in that particular show. You have some Black community aspects too, but a lot of it is like more skewed toward the Latino community and the gang violence in that particular community and whatnot. So you kind of see that this could actually be meaning that too. You're under lockdown in your own little hood, right? Then you get a call, nephew was shot down dead. The culture's involved. Meaning this perpetual cycle, these people that are living that lifestyle, they did it. Let's continue on. And again, the culture. We're going to get into what the culture really is. Now, we got into what the culture is, right? But we're going to get even deeper on what the culture is and what the culture Kendrick Lamar is talking about in this song. Stay with me. Now we get into the chorus here. I want, but I want you to want me too. I want the hood to want me back. I want the hood. Look what I done for you. Look what I done for you. Look what I done for you. So basically in this chorus, I'm thinking that Kendrick Lamar is kind of saying, like, for example, he says, but I want you to want me too. Honestly, when I first listened to this, I kind of felt like he was talking about God. Like he was talking about how, so there's the thing, right? We all have free will, right? People might ask like, why God gave us free will and whatnot. Why doesn't he just make people serve him? And the thing is, right, if we didn't have free will and we were just all robotically programmed to serve him, that would not be real love. I mean, think about it. If you had a person, a significant other, a person that you like, let's say, and you could just be like, okay, I'm going to press a button and they're just going to love me. All right. Now, who's to say that when you unpress that button, they would, maybe find somebody like, well, I'm not really interested in you anymore. I'm going to go to somebody else who I actually love. Like, that's not real love. So, but when there's no button involved and they actually choose you and I want to be with you because I love you and I like you. Like, that's real. That's real. And so like, the thing is, right, it's almost as if like he's saying, yo, God wants you, right? He wants you, but he wants you to want him as well. And you kind of can see maybe how he can that could maybe be what he may be saying, because you look at that image that was that picture and everything that it was released with Mr. Morale, Mr. Morale, I don't know, and the big steppers, that he put out with him having that crown of thorns and whatnot, he could be kind of saying, hey, Jesus wants you to be his follower. All right. Like he wants you to do that, but Jesus wants you to be his follower. Okay. And Jesus is following God. All right. And the standards that he has put in place. So the thing is, right, when you look at this, let's go back kind of to the beginning, because he talks about his perspective, right? So this could be his perspective. And he's saying it may differ from yours. But this is what he's kind of, he wants. So basically he's kind of saying, and he could be saying this too. Hey, I want you to do this. I want you to stop this cycle. I want you to stop this quote unquote culture. Stop going after this culture. Change. I want the hood to change. I want the hood to want me back. Like, maybe he's even speaking from the lens of culture itself, the actual culture, the positive culture. I want you to want me too. Culture is saying, the positive culture, I want you to want me too. I want you to want me. I want you to want me as well. Kendrick wants you to want it. And now culture itself is asking you, yo, I want you to want me too. Yo, like, come get me. I want you. I want the hood. I want the hood. I want all that stuff. Look what I've done for you. Because the culture was positive at a certain point, but then it got turned negative. Look what it's done. Look what it's done. All right. And then on that flip side, you can look like, if you're going from the more spiritual route, which Kendrick does get spiritual sometimes, it's look what God has done for you. And also, that's a little bit more of reinforcement for the spiritual part. If you think about the last album that Kendrick Lamar did, he does talk about, on like a voice message type thing with, like, I think one of his uncles or whatnot, he talks about in Deuteronomy when God was talking about these different curses that will be on these people, right? On his people, because of them turning away from him. So it's kind of like a come back to me, that is, come back to God, and then you will, get out of that curse and all the negative things that are happening to you because of your decision to serve other gods. And we'll talk about that later on. All right. So let's get into verse number 2. I said, I do this for my culture, to let y'all know what a dude looked like in a bulletproof Rover. In my mama's sofa was a doo-doo pooper, hair trigger, walk up closer, ain't no photoshopping. Friends bipolar, grab you by your pockets. No option if you froze up, always play the offense. So this right here, quite a few things here. All right. He said, I do this for my culture. So his culture could be a little bit different, right? So he's talking about perspective and stuff, right? And he says, so you can know what a dude looks like in a bulletproof Rover. So it's kind of like maybe even kind of giving a little bit of inspiration, like, hey, you can make it out too, like how I did. Which is kind of like what he alludes to on a song that he did from his first album. Well, it's kind of his second album, technically, Good Kid, Mad City. It's a song called Black Boy Fly on the deluxe version, right? It's like a bonus track or whatever. And he talks about that. He talks about, and basically the song is about certain people that made it out of Compton. He talks about a basketball player named Aaron Aflalo. He talks about The Game, who's another Compton rapper, and stuff like that, making it out of Compton, and him observing that as, like, growing up and stuff, and being like, man, like, I was scared or jealous a little bit of them because I thought they would be the last ones to get out, meaning he would not escape. He wouldn't get out, And so he could be kind of talking about something like this. It's like an inspiration. Like, yo, I do this to inspire y'all. Like, hey, you can make it out. This is what it looks like. This is what it could look like for you too. All right. He talks about hair trigger, which could be talking about like a gun. Okay. Walk up closer. Ain't no photoshopping. Friends bipolar, grab you by your pocket. So it's like, yo, your friends could end up grabbing you, getting into your pockets, robbing you, and no photoshopping. Like, yeah, this is really your friends doing this. Like, it's not an enemy. Like, well, it is an enemy now, it's a betrayer. But he talks about something like this earlier in the song, right? where he talked about, homies done mess with your baby mama once you hit the yard. So it's like once you in the prison, now your so-called homies, your so-called friends, now they're moving in on your girl. So it's like, okay, meaning they're trying to, have sex with your girl. Like they're trying to do something like that with them. You know what I'm saying? Or having a relationship and all this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that is what he could be alluding to here. Yeah, again, friend betrayals and stuff of that nature, right? And this also could be a reference to The Game. He has a song on his first album, The Documentary. The song is called Don't Worry, featuring Mary J. Blige. And during part of like the hook or kind of the bridge or whatever, like Mary J. Blige says, and those dudes you ran with are foul. They've been trying to get at me ever since you've been down. So basically, the song is about The Game going to prison or to jail or something along those lines. And Mary J. Blige is like his lover. And she's saying like, hey, like those guys that you ran with, AKA your friends that you did stuff with, they're mad shady. Like they're foul. They're bad. They've been trying to get at me. They've been trying to talk to me romantically since you've been locked up, basically. So it could be kind of a reference toward that because of, the Compton, California connection. Then he goes into dudes going to work and selling work, late for work, working late, praying for work, but he on paperwork. That's the culture. Point the finger, promote you. Remote location, witness protection, they gonna hold you. So, again, this is talking about the culture again. And again, we're going to get into what the culture actually is. Wait for it. Wait for it. You don't want to miss that. All right. So the culture is at work here again. Dudes going to work and selling work, meaning they have a legitimate job, right? They're going to work that 9-to-5 job, right? That 7-to-3 job where they're getting the legal money. Then selling work being a slang for drugs of some sort, all right? So selling work, okay? They have a job, but they're still selling dope, drugs and stuff. I guess maybe just to get by. Maybe their job does not provide them with enough money to live and whatnot and to function. So they feel like, hey, I have to sell these drugs to, pay or have a little bit more spending money and stuff like that. Late for work, working late. Okay, so they're working late at work. But the thing is, right, working late is because they're out there selling work after dark. You understand? Like, and stuff like that, all right? And praying for work, but he on paperwork. So you're praying now that you want to get maybe a better job to where you can stop selling work, right? Trying to be legit, okay? You're trying to be legit. You're praying for work. You want to work that legitimate job and stop selling work, but you can't because you're on paperwork, meaning you probably have some type of rap sheet. Okay, you have a criminal record or something like that is what I'm gleaming from this. And it's hard for you to get those better jobs because of that. And so it forces you into this cycle, kind of forcing you into the culture a little bit. And again, we're going to get into what the culture really is. So again, he says that's the culture. Point the finger, promote you, remote location, witness protection, they going to hold you. So, when you get into this stuff, you could get into relocations, right? Where, you're under witness protection and you had to move, you had to change your name and all this different stuff, right? Or it could be kind of a double entendre here. He's talking about promote your remote location, which is like working remote means you can work from home, which means you're not working at an actual office, so to speak. You're working from another location, but still doing the office work. Remote. Could be a little bit of double entendre there. Interesting stuff here. Let's go on to the next lines here. The streets got me messed up. Y'all can miss me. I want to represent for us. New revolution was up and moving. I'm in Argentina wiping my tears full of confusion. Water in between us, another peer's been executed. History repeats again. Let's stop there. So, this is that cycle that we keep talking about, right? The cycle that Kendrick Lamar is alluding to here. History repeats itself again. Another peer has been executed. Cool little double entendre there. Peer, P-E-E-R, okay? Not P-I-E-R, but P-E-E-R and P-I-E-R sound the same but have different meanings. Peer, P-E-E-R, is like a person that's kind of like within your age group, within your same kind of lifestyle, so to speak, really like your same generation. These are things that, the song is kind of talking about too, right? The generational thing. We talked about that at the very beginning. He talks about that at the very beginning of the song, basically. And peer, P-I-E-R, which is something that has to do with boats in the water. He talks about water in between us. So there's a little neat little double entendre there for the word peer. All right. But talks about somebody's been executed. Okay, somebody's been killed. History repeats itself again. It's like that same thing. Like when the guy, in the earlier verse, he was on 23-hour lockdown. Somebody called him and said your nephew was shot down. So nephew was killed, and now here we go again. Maybe he's alluding to that same thing. Maybe he's rapping from that person's perspective, but I don't really think that's what he's talking about here. I'm thinking this is something maybe that happened. Maybe that's why he took such a long break between different albums where he's dealing with these different emotions, because he talked about the things that are going on before, he's had different interviews and stuff where, we get more information, like certain people, like his friends and stuff, got killed, and some of those people are still in that lifestyle, and those things are still going on, like in Compton and whatnot. So people are still dying, and all different kind of things are still going on that are negative and very hurtful. So these things are something that Kendrick can hear about. He said he was in Argentina wiping tears of confusion, because sometimes when a person dies or a murder or something happens, there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of emotions, what I'm saying. And he said a new revolution was up and moving. He said, I want to represent for us. All right. So it's like, he said the streets got me messed up. Y'all can miss me. Meaning y'all can, when somebody says y'all can miss me, you can miss me with that. That means you can not give that to me. So essentially he's kind of saying I don't want to be I don't want that street life kind of thing. Right. He said, I want to represent for us. And I think he's talking about kind of like the black community again a little bit there, because he's black, he's in that community, and he grew up in that community. So I think, and also talking about revolution and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff has to do with the black community trying to get out of certain situations, institutionalized situations and things of that nature, which he alludes to in the song and whatnot. Matter of fact, being institutionalized, almost feeling like the way of life and this quote unquote culture, right, that's been pushed on and been created is how it's supposed to be, institutionalized in that way, meaning kind of almost brainwashed to a certain extent into thinking that that's how it's supposed to be, when it's really not supposed to be like that. Make amends, then find a dude with the same skin to do it. But that's the culture. Crack a bottle, hard to deal with the pain when you're sober. By tomorrow, we forget the remains, we start over. That's the problem. So again, if you were kind of on the fence as to say, well, I don't know if Kendrick Lamar is glorifying this or not. Well, I think that when he says that's the problem, when he talks about these different things right here, that should let you know that he is not glorifying these things. He looks at them as being a problem. It's something that needs to be fixed. So as you see here, the culture, it comes out again here, but that's the culture, right? He talks about this again with what we just got into, right? History repeats again. Here we go. Another death. All right. And now, how are we going to deal with that? Cracking the bottle, meaning opening a bottle of alcohol. Okay. Hard to deal with the pain when you're sober. How we know it's alcohol? Sober. All right. When you drink alcohol, some people drink it in excess, which you really should not do, and they get drunk. Okay. So they're no longer sober, and that numbs them to this pain. And again, it goes back to what I was talking about before with J. Cole in the album KOD on one of the songs where he says, meditate, don't medicate. People call that medication when you are using these substances to numb or quote unquote treat, cure, solve your pain, but you're really not solving it. It's still there. Because what he said, by tomorrow, we forget the remains. We start over. So by tomorrow, it's gonna be the same thing. You're gonna still have those emotions get numb by all that stuff. When you come off of that high, you get sobered up. They're just right there lying in wait for you, okay? Like a lion about to pounce on you. The lion was just asleep. You put it to sleep, all right? But then when all that tranquilizer stuff wears off, the lion is right there ready to pounce on you and rip you to pieces. So that's what that stuff is like. So the actual thing you need to do is try and defeat that lion somehow. You don't need to tranquilize it. You need to somehow kill it. Like, you need to destroy it. You need to shoo it away. You need to do something to get it away from you and get it out, and whatnot. Now we're really saying away, but really we're talking about things that are within, so out of you, okay? So this is what Kendrick Lamar is kind of like. He's trying to show that this is the culture, and that's a problem that, we start over. Basically, we starting over the same cycle. Again, he said history repeats again. It's the same thing over and over and over and over, right? And he said that's a problem. He goes on to say, our foundation was trained to accept whatever follows, dehumanized, insensitive, scrutinized the way we live for you and I. Enemies shook my hand. I can promise I'll meet you. In the land where no equal is your equal. Never say, I ain't told you, nah. In the land where hurt people hurt more people. Forget calling it culture. So this right here, super duper deep. All right. The foundations was trained to accept whatever follows. So he talks about these different things, right? Okay. He talks about cracking that bottle, right? Getting high, right? Or getting drunk, right? A lot of people, when they do crimes and commit murder and stuff like that in these communities, they're high and they're drunk, right? That numbs them. That helps them to be able to do it. You actually hear stories about this too in different armies in the world and whatnot. They be getting high and stuff like that, right? I heard about this like in the Middle East. Some of those people, they be that are in the military over there, on the Middle Eastern militaries, apparently they be getting high on these different substances, and it kind of allows them to fight. And sometimes you hear reports of sometimes these people had to be, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because war is so bad. Like, war is something that is, I'm not trying to glorify war by talking about this. I'm just saying that this is what people do, and this is what happens. So these people that are all doped up, right, and they're fighting, they're shooting, and all this stuff, right? The opposing forces have said they had to like shoot these people a lot of times because they're not falling down and whatnot, because they're so high, they're not feeling pain, they're not reacting to being shot and stuff like that. So it takes a lot of shots to essentially kill that person. So that is kind of what Kendrick is maybe alluding to here, as far as whatever follows after you get high and commit these acts, okay? Dehumanized, insensitive. So again, dehumanization is the big thing. Matter of fact, going back to the military a little bit, that's something that they teach you. Like, they don't teach you like, hey, you're shooting a person, like you're shooting a target, you're shooting a thing, like they have to dehumanize it so that people can actually do it. And so when you do these different things, right, these substances and stuff, right, it makes you more insensitive, and it helps you to be able to dehumanize a person. And then when you dehumanize that person, you can kill them a lot more easily. And that's how a lot of these crimes things happen. It's very sad. It's very messed up. And it's a problem. Just like Kendrick Lamar said in this song a few lines above this, it's a problem. Scrutinize the way we live for you and I. Enemy shook my hand. I can promise I'll meet you in the land where no equal is your equal. So here I think he's talking about the United States, right? That's the thing where I think that's in the Constitution. It talks about the equality thing, right? And, if you kind of look at it, it seems to not be that way. And usually it's because it's kind of more skewed, with the black community and stuff, how it's not very equal and stuff like that. And I'm just saying because, and not to say it's just only the black community, it can be any community, really, you know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying this is what he's talking about, probably because this is a community that he is a part of and that he sees, these things going on in. Never say I ain't told you. So basically he's saying like, hey, I tried to warn y'all about this. I'm trying to tell y'all about this. And it kind of goes back to the chorus, which we're actually very close to getting to the chorus again, right? Where I was talking about, where I was saying like that line was, but I want you to want me too. It's almost like God saying, I want you to want me too. I want you to want, like I want you, but I want you to want me back. Culture could be talking about culture. Culture wants you. The positive culture wants you, but it wants you to want it too. It wants you to reach out for that positivity and utilize it. Maybe that's it. But I like this right here. It said, in the land where hurt people hurt more people, forget calling it culture. Wow. The land where hurt people hurt more people. There's an expression out there where it says hurt people, meaning people that have been damaged by different things emotionally, mentally, physically, things of that nature, right? Sometimes they don't deal with that the right way, and they want to lash out at other people because of that. You kind of think of it like an animal, right? There's wounded and stuff. Like there's that whole thing. There's this little story, this little proverb kind of story about like a lion that had like this thorn in his paw, and the lion was all aggressive and stuff, and then because it was hurt, its paw had this thorn in it, it was really, really hurting it and not making it feel good. So then somehow the thorn gets removed and the lion kind of becomes less temperamental. So the thing is, right, there is a distinction though between man and beast. If we're looking at again with Kendrick, he gets into the spirituality. Sometimes he talks about the Bible and stuff sometimes. So the Bible does make a distinction between man and beast in the scriptures. And it actually talks about people being animalistic, and it relates that to them being like demons, really. You know what I'm saying? It makes, so that in itself is something that is something you don't want to be a part of. And why? Because it leads to the problems that we've been talking about and the things that Kendrick has been talking about in this song. Violence, murder, dehumanization, being insensitive, all these different things, right? So Kendrick Lamar is saying, forget calling that culture. Like, this is not culture. Like, he's basically saying, like, yeah, they say this is culture, but it's like, yo, nah, bro, this is not culture. Like, this ain't real. This is why I said it's quote unquote culture. He's maybe trying to say that it's culture, but it ain't culture because it's not positive. It's like, why are we trying to make something so negative into a culture? Like, this really should not be called culture. It should be called something else. And we get into the chorus again. I want, but I want you to want me too. I want the hood to want me back. I want the hood. Look what I done for you. Look what I done for you. And again, he wants the hood, right? So we're talking about culture, all right? There were times where the culture was a little bit different, all right? The culture, one cultural thing, used to be like, don't start nothing, won't be nothing. That was kind of a little phrase, you know what I'm saying? But now things can pop off even when you don't start anything. So that's like, that's a culture change, quote unquote culture change. So the thing is, right, that's a hood kind of thing. And so it's like, okay, the hood is kind of saying, hey, I want you to want me back. And he says that in the first chorus as well. So it's like, not only is he saying like not only is culture potentially saying like, hey, I want you, whoever's listening, I want you to want me back. I want you to want that positivity back. Then he's talking to the hood metaphysically. The hood, I want the hood itself to want me back too. Like, I want the hood to want me back also. So the people and just the community itself, like that is so deep, bro. Like that is so deep. So deep. All right, then we have Kendrick Lamar saying, take the drums out, and he breathes deeply. So basically this is just, I guess, him just getting ready, or maybe it was hard for him to get that stuff out. He just had to take a little moment just to compose himself. I may need to do the same after going through this breakdown, because this is a very, very extensive breakdown, and we still have not gotten into what the culture actually is, and we're going to. Stay with me. All right, so now we're getting to the last verse here, and this is a long one, but we're going to break it down. Celebrate new life when it comes back around. The purpose is in the lessons we're learning now. Sacrifice personal gain over everything just to see the next generation better than ours. I wasn't perfect. The skin I was in had truly suffered. Temptation, impatience, everything the body nurtures. All right, so celebrate new life when it comes back around. So this is like, okay, babies being born, things of that nature, right? We're going to celebrate that. That's new life. The purpose is the lessons we learning now. And he talks about the next generation. So like those babies that are being born and whatnot, right? Kind of sacrificing the personal gain over everything so that they can have a better life than we had, or that they had and whatnot. And a lot of time that is the goal for the parents. It's like, I don't want my child to grow up the same way that I did. I don't want them to go through the same struggles that I did. A lot of parents have that sentiment, especially I would say, at least from my experience in the Black community, I've heard that quite a few times. But of course, that could be in everything, right? Nobody would want, a person that's like, of a healthy mind probably would not want their kids to grow up in a bad situation. If they grew up in a bad situation, they probably would want their child to be in a better situation, a more happy situation, a more safe situation, if it's possible. Then he talks about, I wasn't perfect. The skin I was in had truly suffered. Temptation and patience, everything that the body nurtures. So again, this is kind of like some things that he kind of gets into with the spiritual stuff a little bit. Temptation, right? Sin within our body, pulling us to do what is wrong. Okay, flesh and things of that nature, right? He talks about the skin, right? Flesh, another word for skin in the Bible, and scriptures talk about fleshly desires and things of that nature. Patience is a fruit of the Spirit, which is agreeable to God. So impatience is the opposite of that, is not being patient. So that is going along with the flesh or along with sin. So that's what the body nurtures, meaning that's what it wants because of the sinful state that we're in. It craves that, but we have to fight against it. He goes on to say, I felt the good, I felt the bad, and I felt the worry. But all in all, my productivity productivity is how he said it, but my productivity had stayed urging. Face your fears, always knew that I would make it here. Where the energy is magnified and persevered. Consciousness is synchronized and crystal clear. Euphoria is glorified and made his, reflecting on my life and what I done. Paid dues, made rules, change out of love. Them same views made schools change curriculums, but didn't change me staring down the barrel of that gun. So this is a lot to unpack here. Those were a lot of lines right there. But basically what he's talking about here is, a person trying to do productive things, right? They can feel good, bad, they can feel worried. But the energy that they're trying to put out is something that is good, because you see later on it talks about change out of love, right? They're trying to change, right? They paid dues, they made rules and things like that, right? And the thing is, that can be talking about like the community and stuff like that, and there's different things like that are being taught in schools and all kind of different things, right? The educational system and all this kind of stuff, right? But it's like, even though all that stuff may have changed and all these different things and whatnot, and he talks about like euphoria is glorified and made his, and that's kind of like a state of feeling like excited and whatnot, so and happy. And so it could be talking about God, because actually on these lyrics here, it said it made his with a capital H. So again, the things that Kendrick Lamar is talking about in these particular lyrics here really could be like a lot of spiritual stuff. So again, I talked about the fruits of the spirit and whatnot, right? It's kind of like, doing these different things, right? These productive things to make God happy. And, but it's like, even though, they're doing those things and whatnot, the same views made schools change curriculums. So it's like, okay, it got to the point where the schools are changing, different things and whatnot, right? They're trying, fix this issue, right? But it's like, okay, people, doing these bad deeds and whatnot. But it's like, okay, that did not stop a person, pointing a gun at them. So it's like, is it really working? That's the kind of thing, and the thing is, right, when you really look into this, you're talking about God and all these different things. So yes, serving God and doing what God wants you to do. Yes, but you're still in a whole environment. I'm talking about like worldwide, as a whole environment, right? A lot of people are not following God. So you still could run up in situations like this where violence comes upon you, even though you are doing what is right. So that is just something that you have to try and deal with the right way. So getting to the next part of these verses here, these next lines. Should I feel resentful? I didn't see my full potential. Should I feel regret about the good that I was into? Again, so let's stop right there. Should I feel regret about the good that I was into? He's like, so it's like, almost like, was I just doing all this good and stuff for nothing? Was I serving God and trying to do all these things for nothing? Should I feel resentful that I'm not going to see my full potential? So he's thinking he might be killed here. He's kind of thinking these thoughts as the gun's being pointed at him. We're going to see what actually happens here as we go through these verses and these lines here. But that's just something, again, it's kind of like food for thought. Like, hey, was it really worth it to do these good things? Well, let's see. Everything is everything. This ain't coincidental. I woke up that morning with more heart to give you. As I bleed through the speakers, feel my presence. To my brother, to my kids, I'm in heaven. To my mother, to my sis, I'm in heaven. To my father, to my wife, I am serious. This is heaven. So apparently, as Kendrick Lamar puts it, this person went to heaven for the good that they did, even though they died, right? They got apparently killed by this person that was staring them down with the barrel of a gun, and they went to heaven. Now, the Bible, if you're looking at spirituality and stuff like that, everybody that dies does not go to heaven. Some do, some do not. The Bible talks about this. Some people, they're going to live on earth in the paradise condition, in peaceful, amazing conditions. And some will go to heaven and they will rule with Jesus and do different things, predicated with that. But the thing is, right, what Kendrick is kind of saying is like, okay, look, it was worth it because you got life. You got to live in this paradise type situation. You know what I'm saying? Like you won. Like even though you died doing, what was right, you still won in the end because you were going to inherit blessings. And the Bible talks about resurrection as well. And that resurrection, when they come back to life, they'll be in that paradise in those peaceful conditions on the earth and whatnot. And like I said, the Bible also talks about some will go to heaven. So, if you do what is right, you can inherit that kingdom. That's God's kingdom, really. So these are the things that Kendrick is kind of talking about here. Again, we get into the spiritual stuff because Kendrick gets spiritual sometimes. This is things that he could be talking about right here. All right. So then he says, to my friends, make sure you counting them blessings. To my fans, make sure you make them investments. And to the killer that sped up my demise, I forgive you. Just know your soul's in question. I seen the pain in your pupil when that trigger had squeezed. And though you did me gruesome, I was surely relieved. I completed my mission, wasn't ready to leave, but fulfilled my days. My creator was pleased. All right, so how do we know the creator, when he's referring to God, was pleased? Okay, in the lines above, this person died and they went to heaven. Okay, if you want to, look at it more accurately and whatnot, this person, they inherited God's kingdom. Okay, whether that be on the earth or in heaven. Okay, depending on what God decides for that person. All right, so yeah, it was not in vain that they did what was right. To answer that question, he said, should I feel resentful? I didn't see my full potential. Should I feel regret about the good that I was into? The answer to those things are no, because you inherited something even better. You got something even better by doing that. So these are the things that he's talking about here. Like I said, this is deep. So, and when we still have not gotten into what the culture actually is, even after all this time, and that's gonna be deep too. So keep listening. But this is very powerful right here. This is actually one of my favorite little chunks of the bars here. He said, to the killer that sped up my demise, I forgive you. Wow, such forgiveness, right? I mean, and really it made me think about Stephen in the Bible. They stoned Stephen. And Stephen was asking God to forgive them. And even Jesus, right? When he died, he said, pretty much like, God forgive them, for they do not know what they do. So that is like, wow, right? I mean, these people have killed you and have done these horrible things to you, and you were innocent. But the forgiveness aspect is so powerful right there. Wow, right? And then for him to say this too, I forgive you for killing me, basically. This is like a thing he's kind of talking about. And he just said, just know your soul is in question. Like, so by you doing that, now you may be in trouble. Now, a person can change. Just put that out there. A person can change, you know what I'm saying, and repent for what they've done and not do that stuff anymore. They can be forgiven. But the thing is, right, Kendrick is talking about maybe something he talked about in one of his other albums where he says, the one in front of the gun lives forever. Wow, right? Okay, so check this out. Again, when we talked about the heaven thing and the earth in paradise and peaceful conditions, those are in that particular time period. When that happens, those people will be living forever. There will be no more death, as the Bible says in Revelation 21, verse 4, 3 and 4. So these are the things that Kendrick can be kind of alluding to here. You know, these are the things like that we have to kind of understand and grasp from these things, and kind of using some of his past works as well too to kind of understand what he's really saying and whatnot in these particular lines and verses. And you look at this other line here where he says, I completed my mission, wasn't ready to leave. Well, you know, he's saying like, we know I do what I was supposed to do. You know, I tried my best. I wasn't ready to die, but here I am with death in front of me. So it has happened. But, you know, he said he fulfilled his days and his creator was pleased. So he can kind of die peacefully, if you will, you know. So he goes on to say, I can't stress how I love y'all. I don't need to be in flesh just to hug y'all. The memories recollect just because y'all celebrate with me with respect. The unity we protect is above all. And Sam, I'll be watching over you. Make sure my kids watch all my interviews. Make sure you live all the dreams we produced. So let's kind of break that down real quickly. So I don't need to be in the flesh just to hug y'all. I can't stress how I love y'all. So he's just showing like, hey, I love you guys, talking to his fans, right? He talked about this at the very beginning, right? All my fans, all my beautiful fans, right? So he's talking to us. He's talking to whoever's listening, right? Anybody gave him a listen. He's talking. He wants you to hear this. He's just thanking you. He's saying that he loves you, right? And talks about he doesn't need to be in the flesh just to hug you, meaning he doesn't need to be right there in front of you to physically contact you and give you like physical, like skin to skin contact and give you a hug. Like he can hug you from a distance, like with his words of encouragement and things of that nature. The memories recollect because y'all celebrate with me, respect. The unity we protect is above all. So unifying, right? Coming together. Okay? Trying to put that above all this other stuff, all this negative stuff that is the quote unquote culture. And Sam, I'll be watching over you. I'm thinking now, I didn't really want to get into the music video on this particular show because that's a lot to unpack too. You know, with the bipolar line, we see Kanye West's face. He's been talking about he has some different like mental things going on. He was on medication and things of that nature. I'm pretty sure he said that. And then, you know, during this particular part of the song, we see Nipsy Hustle. And you can see it's kind of like maybe from his perspective a little bit because, you know, Nipsey Hustle was gunned down, you know, by somebody, and he left behind, you know, a wife and children and things of that nature. And so I'm not really sure who Sam is. Maybe that's somebody in relation to Nipsey Hustle. Excuse my ignorance on that. But this can even be, you know, he talks about, because he had different ideas and stuff about the black community and it was doing different things and stuff before he was killed. So that being said, even taking Nipsey Hustle out of it, you can still kind of see where it says, make sure kids watch all my interviews, make sure you live all the dreams we produced. So again, this kind of goes back to what he talked about earlier in the song where he talked about the generations, right? Trying to make it better for the new generations. He says, celebrate new life when it comes back around. The purpose is in the lessons we're learning now. Sacrifice personal gain over everything just to see the next generation better than ours. So basically that's what this is kind of alluding to. It's like, yo, look at what we were talking about. Look at the interviews. Make sure you live all the dreams we produce. Like, we tried to pave the way for y'all to have a better life. Make sure you live that. Take advantage of that. Then he goes on to say, keep that genius in your brain on the move. And to my neighborhood, let the good prevail. Make sure them babies and them leaders out of jail. Look for salvation when trouble gets real. So, again, just more positivity. He wants that positivity, right? Let the good prevail into the neighborhood. Make sure the babies and leaders are out of jail and so forth and so on. Like these community leaders, things of that nature, because they can kind of help guide the community and stuff like that. You know, that's something that was very much a thing like in the past and whatnot in the black community and stuff like that. But things happen where those things are kind of not there anymore. So, you know, you kind of maybe get yourself in a situation where you see this quote unquote culture taking over that is super negative and not positive. And basically this is just him trying to say like, hey, look for salvation when trouble gets real. Okay, maybe looking to God more, things of that nature, because you can't help the world until you help yourself. And I can't blame the hood the day that I was killed. Y'all had to see it. That's the only way to feel. That's so deep, yo. Like it's that old expression, right? Give somebody their flowers while they are alive. Why? Because then they can actually smell them and appreciate them. When a person is dead, they cannot smell it. Okay, they are unconscious. They don't know what's going on. So you can say, yo, I love you, I love you. They don't hear it, okay? Telling that person while they're alive, they can hear it, then they can actually appreciate it. That's what that is all talking about. Giving the flowers is like kind of like showing love. Like, because giving flowers to somebody is kind of like giving a gift. And when you give a gift to somebody, it shows a certain, you know, love toward that person. So basically, they're saying you had to see me get killed. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't listen to what I had to say. And it's like, you see that with artists a lot. Like the sales of their albums and whatnot go up so much after they die. Like you've seen it like with Michael Jackson, with Prince, with other notable artists and stuff that have passed away. Their discography just sells so much more after they die sometimes. And then like people really start to hear like what they were saying, like, oh man, I didn't realize he said that. Oh, I didn't realize he felt that way, until they die. And they really start to listen to what they were saying or what the music was about and stuff like that. It's wild that phenomenon happens, but it happens a lot. And so that's why it's almost like, almost like a martyr, so to speak, where this person died. Okay. Maybe even talk about Nipsey Hustle to a certain extent. Well, probably is, because that's where, in the video you see the face and stuff. But I'm saying just relating this in general, you can kind of see like how sometimes you have to have those big occurrences happen to where now you can be kind of taught a lesson as far as like, okay, and I'm not trying to say like minimize anything with the murder that occurred there. I'm just saying, let's say, okay, sometimes people are hard-headed. So sometimes you're like, hey, don't touch that stove. Don't touch that stove. It's hot, right? What did the person do? They touched the stove, right? Now they don't burn their hand up, but now they've gotten a lot of damage by burning their hand, but now they know, hey, I'm not going to touch that stove anymore because it's hot and it's going to damage me. So it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, okay, something very big and drastic had to happen for you to now understand what I was saying. And it's just so tragic that it had to be the loss of somebody's life. and that, they are leaving behind a family, things of that nature. So that's definitely something to consider. And Kendrick is saying, even more so here, and though my physical won't reap the benefits, the energy that carry on the midst, still, I want you. So they're no longer here. They've died, right? Whether this is Kendrick, this could be Kendrick kind of saying like, yo, I'm dead. It could be him talking about Nipsey Hustle as well. It could be a double entendre in that way, you know what I'm saying? I think other artists have kind of done this before, kind of like rapping from the grave or rapping as if they were dead or something like that, kind of thing, right? So he's saying like, yo, the energy, the idea, okay, the philosophies, the things that they produced, right? It said, make sure you live all the dreams we produced, okay? They carry on. They keep on going. They keep on going. I want you. Again, going back to that chorus. The culture, the positive culture, all right? God, all right, wants you to want them too. They want you, right? God wants you, but he wants you to want them back. The culture wants you, the positive culture wants you to want it as well. Kendrick wants you to want the culture as well. That's what he's taught, the positive culture. He wants that. That's what he's kind of saying here. Then he's saying even metaphysically, the hood itself wants the culture back. The positive culture back. Because times have changed over the years. And that negativity has come about. And that's the end of the song. And now, we are going to break down what the culture actually is. You guys have waited so long for this. I hope I don't disappoint you. So to answer this question, we had to go to another song by a completely different artist. This artist, their name is Lupe Fiasco. And the song we're going to be referencing is Real, Recognize Real, parentheses, pills. So, Lupe Fiasco, if you guys do not know, he is a hip-hop artist out of Chicago, Illinois, United States of America. He has quite a few albums, quite a few mixtapes. This song was actually from a mixtape. Apparently, I guess it was supposed to be on his first album, Food and Liquor, but I guess it wasn't. So he just put it out, I guess, as either a standalone track or on some mixtape or something. But it's a really good song. Listener discretion is advised. If you can find a clean version, by all means, listen to that. But it's a very, very interesting song. It shows a lot about what is encountered in certain lifestyles. And this lifestyle is actually what Kendrick Lamar is talking about in The Heart Part 5. And we're going to get into a little bit more of what Part 5 could actually mean too. All right. But first, we're going to get into the culture. We're going to reveal what the culture actually is. All right. So I'm going to just start off this first little verse here, and then we're going to get into what the culture actually is, okay? Because the culture is revealed in verse 2 of this song, just to kind of give you guys a heads up. So the intro is, you have some propellers whirling, right? Lupe starts off by saying, well, the first thing I want to say is verse 1. They say real, recognize real. The dollar bill will exercise our ills. E. Frauds is thoroughly camouflaged and fatigued in the field. Be careful who you believe. The pills is dealed like flaccid. Proceeds go toward the buying of Caprice classics with the wheels to match it so they can mac it like an automatic weapon stepping off into traffic. So let me just kind of break this down real quick. So this is kind of similar to what Kendrick Lamar was talking about in The Heart Part 5, right? This kind of lifestyle. You kind of can see what this lifestyle is, you know, the dollar bill, right? Caprice classic, fancy cars, you know, wheels to match, automatic weapons, you know, violence, hello. Things like that, right? Pills, being dealed, drugs. Okay, remember we talked about that earlier, right? We said the drugs and the alcohol. That's what Kendrick Lamar was talking about earlier in some of those verses, right? The dollar bill will exercise our ills. So the dollar bill will heal us. That's what this particular thing, right, is saying. We're gonna get into what the thing is though in this song, and that thing that's in this song is actually what the culture is and what Kendrick Lamar is actually referring to. We're almost there. We are right there. We are right there. Listen to this. All right, so the thing is, right, let me just break this down real quick and we're going to get into it. I'm tired of making y'all wait, and I want to get into it too. I'm excited. All right, so they say real, recognize real. So a lot of time, you know, when somebody's being real and not fake, they're going to recognize that. A person that is real is going to understand like another person is real. They're going to be like, yo, you know, I can see the realness in that person because I'm being real too. I'm not being fake. Like, you can kind of detect it. The dollar bill will exercise our ills. Okay, so it's like, yo, exercise is kind of like to get out, right? You think of like exercising a demon or something. Like when they did that, like in the Bible and whatnot, you know, the demon came out of that person, right? And so it's saying the dollar bill will get these illnesses out of us, right? And it's like, that's what is perpetuated, right? By this particular, let's call it an entity, okay? Frauds is thoroughly camouflaged, okay? This is very similar to what Kendrick Lamar talked about with the pain, right? Being vandalized and covered up, right? Okay? That's camouflaged, okay? And fatigued in the field, be careful who you believe. So fatigued, right? It's kind of like military fatigue, okay? It was like an outfit, okay? So it's like, be careful who you believe, you know? Like some of these people may not be who they say they are, you know what I'm saying? Which is kind of like the whole friends thing that we were talking about with Kendrick Lamar, right? Those fake friends, right? The homies, you know, after you go to jail or go to prison, now they're trying to mess with your baby mama and, you know, different things of that nature, right? Or when, you know, your friend or, you know, start being bipolar, so to speak, you know, and, you know, they start to robbing you, you know what I'm saying? Getting into your pockets, you know, as Kendrick Lamar talked about. So that's kind of like, be careful who you believe, be careful who you trust, you know, and things of that nature, right? The pills is dealt like flaccid, okay? Pills being dealt, all right? Drugs and things like that, all right? Proceeds, okay? The money you got from the pills from dealing, okay? Which is very similar to what Kendrick Lamar was talking about with that guy, right? That was working and then selling work after work, right? Even though he wanted to get out of that situation, he couldn't because he had papers, okay? He had a record, so he can't really get out of that lifestyle because nobody else will hire him. He couldn't get better work. It's a cycle. But here we go. So the proceeds that Lupe is talking about here, right? That money that you got from dope dealing, now you put that towards buying the Caprice classes, which is like a fancy car kind of, like kind of an old school car. You can make it fancy, you know what I'm saying? With the wheels to match it. So now you got big rims on it too, right? Okay, you're spending that money on that as opposed to maybe spending it on trying to get out of the situation. You're just stuck with a car, insurance payments, and things you kind of don't need as opposed to, you know, things you may need like, you know, maybe stuff for your house, like food, water, even like, you know, getting out of that particular situation in general. You're like, instead of saving it and stacking it, you know. as Young Jeezy said in one of his old songs, right? I believe it was that song he had with T.I. on his second album. He said that money stack up if you let it. So that's real. Like if you let that money stack, you kind of save it, it will increase. So with the wheels that match it so they can Mac it, okay? Like an automatic weapon, okay? Like a Mac 10 or a Mac 11, okay? Which is a very small submachine gun, okay? Double entendre there, very nice. Stepping out into traffic, meaning like, okay, you're going out into traffic, okay? You know, everybody's gonna see you now. Like, check him. Tears roll down the eyes of the rides inside of a funeral procession. Here lies, with X's in his eyes, the unguided, misdirected. Squad cars roll past and laugh. So here we go. There's that cycle that Kendrick Lamar was talking about, and Lupe's talking about it here too. All right, tears rolling down the eyes of the rides inside the funeral procession. So now we're talking about a person is dead, right? Here lies with X's in the eyes. So X's in the eyes is saying dead, that their person's dead, because when you look at X's on the eyes, that's something that's in cartoons, right? When a person was dead or something in the cartoon, they put those X's on the eyes, kind of signify that they're dead, right? So the unguided, misdirected, okay? They don't have guidance, right? All right? Or they are guided by something. We're going to find out what that something is. We're going to find out what the culture is very soon. Coming up very, very, very soon. Within the next 30 seconds, very soon. Here we go. We're finally here, baby. Yes. Squad cars roll past and laugh. That's pretty self-explanatory, but I will break it down. Squad cars, police cars, they roll past and laugh, okay? Because sometimes people are not really in tune with the community like that. You know, sometimes these police officers, you know, they patrol different areas that they don't even live in, which is something that J. Cole even talked about in, you know, some of his songs or whatnot. So, you know, that's the thing. Like, these things are kind of like, you have to really think about that. But yeah, you know, and even people in general, you know, can be like that. They're like, you know, they roll past and laugh like, huh, there's another one. You know, like, again, it becomes minor. Remember, we talked about that with Kendrick Lamar, right? It becomes minor. It becomes something, murder and death and all that stuff becomes minor. It becomes like, that's nothing. That's just normal. That's part of it. That's part of the culture. But it should not be. Here we go. So the chorus here, out there, ha 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 ha, right? This is just Lupe just doing, you know, stuff, right? And the person named Willie Hutch as well. So now, here we go. These next two verses are going to break down what the culture actually is. Lupe calls it a different name, but it's the same thing. Check this out. Let me see if y'all can identify it. I'm going to give you a little chance too after I read these. Verse 2. Lupe says, they say the streets is a demon in a dress, with dollar signs in her eyes and semen on her breath. Scantily clad, no panties, deep throating in an alley, aging badly, in sunglasses she pretty. Slain boyfriend names is tattooed on her titties. Sprinkling greed, ignorance, and envy inside of a Philly. Hennessy tears. But'll bring your enemies here. Flirt with your flaws till you run up in a raw. So, dude, that's just verse 2. In verse 3, he gets even deeper, right? We're gonna get into this, all right? So, the streets is what the culture is. All right? The culture, let's replace that word there. Let's see if it still works. They say the culture is a demon in a dress, with dollar signs in her eyes and semen on her breath. Scantily clad, no panties, deep throating in an alley, aging badly, in sunglasses she pretty. Slain boyfriend names is tattooed on her titties. Sprinkling greed, ignorance, and envy inside of a Philly. Hennessy tears, but'll bring your enemies in here. Flirt with your flaws till you run up in a raw. So let's break this down, though. Let's break this down. So the streets, a demon in the dress. Okay? dollar signs in the eyes, okay, and a certain something on the breath, okay? So this person probably living in an immoral lifestyle, okay? Scantily clad, no panties, dethroned in an alley, okay? That kind of lifestyle, all right? And then aging badly. But in sunglasses, she pretty. So again, that's that disguise, okay? The sunglasses covering up all this stuff, right? The dress covering up that demonicness, the demon, okay? It's covering that up. You don't see it. That's what, you know what I'm saying? So it's all going back to that thing that Kendrick even was talking about, right? He's talking about the pain, right? Vandalizing the pain and stuff like that, right? Covering it up. So this kind of like in disguise, right? And this is a personification of the streets, that street life. This is what it's like, okay? We're going to get into it a little bit more, right? A little bit in verse 3, he gets into it more. We're going to break it down. So again, slain boyfriend names tattooed on her chest, all right? So it's like, okay, look, she's got a lot of boyfriends. She done had a lot of guys come after her, okay? And a lot of guys done been with her. That is the streets, okay? The culture, all right? The bad culture, the negative culture, all right? So a lot of people, they had a lot of people in relationship with her, but they're slain, they're dead. And those names are tattooed on them, all right? They're tattooed on her, okay? Greed, ignorance, and envy, all right? Those negative emotions, those negative things, Hennessy tears, okay? Talking about what we talked about before, right? What J. Cole say? Meditate, don't medicate. In Kendrick Lamar, The Heart Part 5, he talks about, right, cracking open that bottle, okay? We talked about people in those communities, a lot of time they get drunk or they get high and then they commit these crimes because it's easier for them to do it when they're not sober. So here we go again, right? Hennessy tears, right? Okay? All of that, you understand? Booty, that'll bring your enemies here, okay? So then flirt with your flaws till you run up in a raw. So run up in, meaning, you know, basically have sex with them raw without a condom, okay? That's what it's meaning. And, you know, that can expose you to a lot of different sexually transmitted diseases and things of that nature. You know, so it can definitely be damaging to you, okay? Messing with the streets, okay? This personification of the streets, messing with this particular culture, this negative culture that we've identified. But this is also a double entendre because, yes, when I'm talking about with the sexual aspect, yes, that can be very risky, can lead to a lot of different things that are bad. But Lupe is also talking about how a condom is known as protection, right? And just like Kendrick Lamar said, no protection is risky. So protection in this instance is referring to a gun. So that also is something that can lead to death, okay? Now, chorus again, you'll be out there. Out there. And they say, So again, breaking down the choruses here, there's not really a lot to break down, but out there, it's kind of like you might actually think about, there's an expression nowadays saying we outside, you know, it's kind of like that, out there, outside. That's what I'm kind of thinking because that's where a lot of these things happen, right? When we outside, I kind of be saying like we in the streets, like we out here, like, you know, that's what it's kind of saying. Like we're out here, we're gonna do, you know, whatever this culture is gonna tell us to do type beat, like this kind of thing. And so that is something that you have to kind of understand too. There's some lingo there a little bit. All right, so verse 3. They say the game has a belly of the beast, blunts for fingers and hollow tips for teeth, wiretaps for ears, Nike Airs for feet, blasphemy for prayers, the system for a heart, rap music for beats, heroin for a son, and is married to the streets. Crack pipes for lungs, and he never sleeps, just spies with dice in his eyes. Loves life 'cause he likes when it dies. With a baking soda soul, he cop up pleasure. Clothes made out of dollar bills that he sold together. He knows he's clever. Jail is his house. Let's just stop right there. There's a little bit more we have to unpack here. There's a few more lines, but let's just unpack these. Let's break these down a little bit. So the game, right, has the belly of a beast. Man, you know a beast, man, you talk about a beast got a big belly, bro. Like a beast that's a big belly. You know what I mean? Like you talk about a beast, like think of like a beast in the forest, bro. Like that's a big, huge thing. That thing could probably eat for days. Yeah, the belly of that. Okay, big belly. Eats up a lot of stuff, right? Blunts for fingers, hollow tips for teeth. So blunts, again, we're going back to the drug stuff. Blunts, weed, marijuana, wrapped up in those things, smoking it, right? That's what, now we get into what it looks like. He's kind of like Voltroning this figure, this entity now for us, okay? We can kind of see what it looks like. So we got blunts for fingers, hollow tips for teeth, which is technically hollow point, which are bullets, a type of bullet that is made a certain way so that it expands when it hits an object or a person as to create more damage. And that's the teeth of this entity, okay? Wiretaps for ears. So the ears are wiretaps, like, listening in on conversations and stuff like that. Nike Airs for feet. Okay, you know what? I'm going to just take it there. They're probably black Air Force Ones, bruh. They're black Air Force Ones on the feet. All right? We all know what the black Air Force Ones is. We know what that is. I don't have to go into that. We know what the black Air Force energy is. That's what's on the feet of this thing. All right. Blasphemy for prayers. The system for a heart. Blasphemy, horrible things like they're saying like to God, even like it's like, oh, that's disrespectful to God, right? And again, this is something that Kendrick talked about. He talked about God in his song, right? In the Heart Part 5, and doing what God would want and stuff like that. Should I have done it? And he got rewarded for doing what God would want him to do. He talks about that. We talked about the heaven and the life and the paradise and the peace and all of those things, the life on earth, all those different things, right? That's what, but this thing, this entity, right? It's opposite of that. It is praying blasphemous, horrible thing. Blasphemy is like things that are super disrespectful to God, and it's praying that to God. So it is something that is very much not living according to God. This entity, this game, right? Okay, and whatnot. So this is a little bit different. Lupe talking about the game, right? Before he was talking about the streets. Okay, but they're essentially very, very similar, or they have a relationship, and we're gonna see what that relationship is. All right. So the system for a heart, right? Rap music for beats. So basically the system, what I'm thinking here is like, you might hear people having a system in their car, meaning an audio system, okay, a speaker system, all right? And how can we kind of allude to that? Well, rap music for beats. So the heart of this entity, all right, it's got a system. It's booming, boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? You hear it from like miles away. You hear those vibrations and stuff, right? And it's rap music, right? Okay. Heavy bass, 808s, all that stuff. You know what I mean? And again, this could be double entendre again, because thinking about the system, this system that gets people caught up, like how we talked about before, right? With Kendrick Lamar, The Heart 5, where he talked about that person that was working, then going to sell work, then wanted to get more work, but he couldn't because he had papers, kind of thing. So that system and all of that kind of keeping the thing going, and that's what kind of keeps this entity going too. And it's married to the streets. Crack pipes for lungs. Okay, so the game and the streets are married to each other. They're in a relationship. All right. And if you're looking at the Bible and stuff, okay. Now, Lupe, he is more with Islam. Okay. He's Muslim. And so I don't know that much about the Quran, honestly. But I would just say, I know in the Bible, it talks about when a person is married, they become one flesh, like they become one, like figuratively and whatnot. So figuratively here, you could say the game and the streets are kind of one and the same. So potentially, and yeah, you kind of see that too, like with what it's talking about. But okay, married to the streets, okay. So the game is married to the streets and the game has crack pipes for lungs, okay. So, what a horrible creature this is. And he never sleeps, just spies with dice in his eyes, okay? So never sleeps, always active, always ready, always watching, okay? Dice, you think about people playing dice, gambling and stuff like that, right? Okay, that leads to a lot of loss of life too. Why you ain't paying me? Where's my money? Boom, boom, blam, that kind of stuff, okay? Loves life because he likes when it dies. That line right there is like, wow, you love life because you like to see it die. Wow. That shows you that right there in the blasphemy for prayer shows what kind of entity you're really dealing with the game here, okay? And it says, with a baking soda soul, he cough up pleasure. Clothes made out of dollar bills that he sewed together. So again, this money thing, we talked about this earlier, right? Even in this song, it talks about the money, right? With dollar signs in her eyes and, a certain substance on her breath. All right. And so that is, maybe that's why the streets is attracted to the game because, hey, she's got dollar signs in her eyes and hey, he has a jacket or something made out of the dollar bills, what I'm saying? He sold it together, what I mean? So maybe, she's attracted to that. Maybe that's why they got married, what I'm saying? But again, there it is right there, money, right? Money is tied into a lot of these negative aspects. And we see in the Bible too, it talks about that too. It's going back to the spirituality thing because Kendrick be using that in his music sometimes. The Bible talks about that too. It says, the love of money is the root of all sorts of injurious things. So people that love money, they can do all kind of horrible stuff to get that money or to preserve that money and whatnot. So that is something, as we can see here, this love of money, right, that these two entities have, and look at what they are. Like they're these horrible like entities. Look what they're made up of, man. Like crack pipes and these blunts and these hollow tips and stuff, like the violence and the drugs and all that stuff. Those are not good things, but that's the culture. You understand? That's the culture. That's the streets. That's the game. All of those things wrapped up in one right here in a nice little bow. All right, so let's keep on going here. He knows, he's clever. Jail is his house. So jail, all right? This entity is always in jail, okay? But he's clever though, he's smart, okay? Jail again, right? We talked about that in the other song, the part 5, where, Kendrick Lamar is talking about this person that was on 23-hour lockdown, got word his nephew got shot. Then another person, they get out of jail after being in there out of prison for being in there for 17 years. And then, they get shot trying to buy weed and stuff like that. So, that is, the kind of thing we're talking about here. All right. So then it says, rides around on a stray bullet with prostitutes, pimps, dope dealers, and killers tied to it to pull it. So check this out, man. I mean, the imagery here that Lupe is painting. I mean, so you got this entity of the game, right? It's got this big belly, blunts for fingers, hollow tips for teeth, okay? It's got wiretaps for ears and black Air Force Ones, all right? Saying all these horrible things and prayers, and it's got this loud beating drum heart, and it never sleeps. Always watching. Like, you know what I'm saying? That kind of scary. You feel me? Like that's like some horror movie type stuff. And then look at this. It rides around on a stray bullet, bro. Like, yo, that's wild, right? But of course, stray bullets and stuff, right? You hear that story, those kind of stories a lot. Like, in the hood, these stray bullets hit somebody and they die, and that's what he's kind of depicting here. And it's that negativity again. It's that cycle again. prostitutes, pimps, dope dealers, and killers tied to the bullet. All of those things right there perpetuating that cycle, okay? Because it leads to disease, it leads to bad emotions, bad mental states and things of that nature, which leads to doing drugs, which leads to committing these things again, committing more crimes, more serious crimes, more heinous crimes. You see the killers and stuff brought up again, and again, it says a TV in his head, stripper slides down his legs, and he's known to ride around with the feds. Then it's kind of like out there, like it says, like, that kind of in the song and whatnot. So this is really, really interesting. I mean, it's like, wow. I mean, so then it's like, okay, he's known to ride around with the feds. Now, in this kind of culture, let's say that, right? Quote unquote culture, ride around with the feds is like, federal agents, government agents, like basically you're snitching, okay? You're telling and things of that nature, right? So it's kind of funny though, because earlier in the song he says he has wiretaps for ears, so he's like always listening. So that could be an allusion and reference to this later line and whatnot, maybe like foreshadowing technically because it came later, right? But the thing is, right, it's that untrustworthiness. So it's like this entity is so untrustworthy, all right? So untrustworthy that it's a snitch and things of that nature, right? So it's like they're supposed to be like, on your side or whatever, but then they're snitching potentially, you know what I'm saying? So that's what Kendrick Lamar was talking about too. Remember with the homie, trying to get your pockets? That's what it is. And that's the culture though, right? That's the culture. Betray your friend, all this kind of stuff, right? No loyalty. That's what it is. So now we have identified what the culture is in the Heart Part 5. The culture is the same thing as the streets and the game that is depicted in Lupe Fiasco's song, Real Recognize Real, parentheses, pills. Okay? So, as you can see, it's very negative and leads to more negativity. That's why it's quote unquote culture. But it gets even deeper than that. So, the true identity of quote unquote culture, the streets, the game, as described in these songs, is actually Satan, the devil. Why? Well, check this out. This is in the Bible. It says, we know that we originate with God, but the whole world is lying in the power of the wicked one. So the wicked one, who is that? The Bible talks about the wicked one being Satan, the devil. They can't be God. It can't be Jesus because they are not that way. So, and the Bible also describes the devil as a lying, walking around seeking to devour somebody, okay? And this is the same kind of thing that these songs are kind of talking about, how this culture kind of preys on people, okay? So that's what the devil does, and he wants to drag us down so that basically we die. And because of that, you can understand that those things that are pulling, right, that straight bullet that the game is riding on, those things are basically being used by Satan. So essentially, Satan is using those things to pull his system along. So, since the whole world is lying in his power right now, until God's kingdom takes over, that's what this is talking about. So, and it's not far-fetched that these people could be talking about that, and even with Kendrick Lamar, because we know that in To Pimp a Butterfly, he talked about Lucy, which could be identified as Lucifer, which is another name that some people call Satan the devil. So all of that stuff seems to line up. And matter of fact, I actually remember an older Dead End hip hop video. Shout out to those guys. They do some pretty cool things over there. And I think it was Mike from C-Town that said, correct me if I'm wrong, sorry, but I think it was him that was talking about in Kendrick Lamar's last album, D, the old lady, the blind lady, he was saying that might be Lucy. And that actually might go along with even what I'm saying, and that might actually be the case. Because check this out. Kendrick wants it to be positive. God wants us to be positive. I want it to be positive too. So really all we can do is just do our part to make it positive. Now, I wanted to get into another part of the analysis here. Now that we finally identified what the culture actually is, I'm so happy if you guys were able to listen this far and really get that answer. That's awesome. I want to get into something else too, because that number 5, the hard part 5, and then the promotional artwork for this song has a lot of hands up, right? 5 with the number 5, just holding up 5 fingers, right? And one thing I'm thinking that could be representation there could be the 5. Now you may be asking yourself, what is the 5? Well, let me ask you something. What's the 4? All right, let me educate y'all if you didn't know. And it's funny that I just recently learned technically what this is, apparently, a few months ago via an interview on Drink Champs with The Game. There was another man on there too. I forgot his name. I'm sorry. No disrespect. The name escapes me. But The Game was on there and they were talking about these things, right? It was kind of like some game banging stuff, okay? And they were kind of dropping some knowledge on certain things. So it's funny though, because I had heard the 5 and the 4 before, like way, way earlier in life, right? I had heard about that. They're like, oh, well, yeah, this particular set, meaning gang, this particular gang is under the 5. Oh, no, but this gang over here, no, they're under the 4. No, they're under the 5, though. They're under the 5. Oh, they're under the 5, too, but no, they're under the 4. It's like that right there, I had heard about that, but I didn't know exactly what it meant, right? I just thought it was like a 5, 4, like I don't know what it was, like with the fingers, maybe it was like some kind of hand gang sign thing. I didn't know, But on Drink Champs, The Game and the other guy that was there were talking about this meaning. The 4 is Crip. Why? 4 letters, CRIP. Crip, or the Crips, is a gang, and I think it actually started in California, and then it spread out to other parts of the United States and whatnot. And then you might could do the math here. The 5 is blood. Why? BLOOD, 5 letters. All right. So it could be that Kendrick Lamar is saying this song, the Hard Part 5, is what happened on the song entitled Blood from his previous album, D. I'm not going to say the word, but yes, that album right there. Okay? With the red letters, that 4-letter word on there, with the period at the end, Kendrick Lamar with that white tee on, looking, I don't even know. All right? That album, the first track, it's called Blood, right? A blind woman, right, shoots Kendrick down after he tries to help. Just like in that last verse of the Hard Part 5, that person that got shot down was trying to help, right? They were trying to help and they did help, but then they got shot down. That could be the connection right there. The 5, blood, the story, the word painting. Wow. What a song. What an artist. But you know what, guys? I think I'm gonna let y'all go. You know, this has been, I think, this has been really fun for me to really jump into, you know, this breakdown. I know it's very long, but I really wanted to break it down. I wanted to unpack all these different things, and I kind of wanted to take my time with it. You know, I didn't know how long it was going to take, but I'm hoping that, you know, you guys kind of stuck around. Let me know how y'all feel about this. Thank you so much for listening. I cannot wait to hear the album, Mr. Morale, Mr. Moral, Miss Morale, and the Big Steppers. I don't know which one it is. Hopefully we'll find out. But yeah, this was cool. I really, let me just speak on the track though a little bit before I go, because I wanted to kind of give a mini review. Like I enjoyed the track a lot. You know, honestly, I think the instrumentation was really, really good. I love that sample with Marvin Gaye and whatnot. Matter of fact, I have a Marvin Gaye album. It has some pretty nice sounds on there as well. I don't know if that particular song is on that album, but it could be. There's another song, there's a song like that make me wanna holler, throw up my hands. Oh, make me wanna holler, throw up my hands. And I guess we're in the bad karaoke session too. I did say we're gonna do some bad karaoke, didn't we? Okay. We're gonna get into that too, but I want to talk about the song a little bit first. You know, I gotta say I really enjoyed this. This is definitely a song that you have to listen to quite a few times to really get it and to really like take in everything he's saying. He says a lot. I mean, I've spoken about this song for like a couple of hours. I mean, you know, and so I think that, you know, even with that, I may have even missed different points, right? And you guys can let me know what I missed. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. Like it's an amazing song. And you know what? I don't know. Like I think I don't know if it's just like, you know, recency bias, or just like you know, you've been having a drought of Kendrick Lamar music and you're like, yo, like this is amazing. Like I don't know, but I really did enjoy it. I really like that beat. I like the sample. I really like how Kendrick attacked the beat. Like, so, you know, he just real calm, you know, he's just like, as I get a little older, and they got that cool little echo effect, like, I realize life is just perspective, and my perspective may differ from yours. I want to say thank you to everyone that's been down with me, all my fans, all my beautiful fans, anyone who's ever gave me a listen. All my people. I come from a generation of pain where murder is minor, rebellious and mighty, yet it's chippy for designer. Belt buckles and clap, overzealous to prone to violence. Like, yo, I was like, yo, like, yeah, like that shit was crazy, bro. Like, I love like that energy. Like, it was like he unleashed it, bro. Like, it was, but even with that unleashing of the energy, like the way that it was engineered and stuff, it was so smooth. It wasn't super jarring. You know, it was nice. Like they did a great job with that. And all of that was just, it was so nice. That beat was so tame. It was so smooth. Like, oh, it was so good. I mean, wow, they did an amazing job on this. This was a really great song. Production, engineering, the mixing, mastering, all of that stuff was really, really nice. Really, really nice. And I want you to want me to. I said, and I'm looking right at the lyrics and I said, and, oh my goodness. I said, but I want you to want me to. I want the hood. Look what I done for you. Look what I done for you. Yo, he's like, yo. He said, I do this for my culture. To tell y'all what a dude looked like in a bulletproof Rover. And my mama's sofa was a doo-doo pooper. Yo, I don't know, man. Like, I'm about to get out of here, yo. Like, you know what? I'm about to, look, I like this last little part here. I'm gonna try and rap this the best I can. This is probably my favorite little part of the verse. I can't even speak right now, man. The hard part 5 got me messed up right now. Like, I mean, dude, I'm about to try and wrap this last little part here in verse 3. This is probably my favorite little line of the song. Well, not little line. Let me not be little by saying that. Excuse me. That's just how the way, like, sometimes I talk like that. I didn't mean any type of belittling just then. But let me wrap this. Let me try and wrap this really quickly. And to the killer that sped up my demise, I forgive you. Just know their souls in question. I seen the pain in your pupil when the trigger had squeezed. And though you did me gruesome, I was surely relieved. I completed my mission, wasn't ready to leave, but fulfilled my days. My creator was pleased. I like that, man. I love that. Like, I really, really like that. I really, really like those lines right there, bro. Because that's what it's about. Like, you know, it's about pleasing your creator. That's what it's about. It's about pleasing your creator, doing what he wants you to do. And you know what? If you go out, meaning if you die doing that, then that's okay. And that right there is an honorable death. And look what you get. Talked about it before, right? In the lines before that, you know, it talked about heaven. You know, I expounded upon that and talked about, you know, being on an earth that's a paradise and is peaceful. And even living forever, right? So that's what the Bible talks about. You know, Kendrick on the spiritual tip. So, like, you know, you can be alluding to these different things. So, you know, that's and if you don't think that, then you know what? Think about what he talked about on some of his previous projects, like on Overly Dedicated, right? On that song, just like, where are we going? Where are we slowing down? Don't, where are we going? We should be growing now. Boom, boom, boom. I think we're getting closer. Hey, Janae Akio, bro, she did her thing on that song, bro. She did a good job on that. I think we're getting closer. But she singing that joke, boy. Oh, man, that was cool. I think it's called Growing Apart or something like that. But he talked about heaven, right? And he said only 144 can go, because in the Bible, it talks about that it's 144,000 that go to heaven. So it's a very exclusive kind of thing. The other people, though, the Bible talks about the great crowd and all that kind of stuff. Like, they're going to be on earth, but the earth is not going to be how it is now. It's going to be like peaceful. It's going to be a paradise. Like, it's not going to be how it is now. Like, all those bad people are going to be gone. So it's going to be different. So, and people are going to be living forever. You know, it talks about that too. Like I said before in the earlier part of the review, Revelations 21, 3 and 4, death will be no more. Neither pain nor mourning and outcry be anymore. The former things have passed away. So those things are going to be done away with. Kendrick knows these things. That's why he's got to know these things, because he's talking about those things. You know what I'm saying? So it's not far-fetched to think that in these more current things that he's releasing, that he's not talking about those things. So that's why I had to bring them up and just kind of like put that out there for y'all so you guys can understand it a little bit more. We're breaking it down. The show is called The 808 Breakdown. We're breaking it down. All right. So that's all it is. You know what I'm saying? We're breaking it down. And I'm having fun. This was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And I hope you guys can leave some feedback and some comments. Hope you guys can tune in, can find out, or, you know, hit the link or whatever for the next episode, because the next episode is hopefully going to be pretty good. So everybody that's out there, thank you again for listening. If you're having a bad day, I hope it gets better. Stay strong. Keep going. Bye.